let's go ahead and try rearranging some of the things on our screen. Since we like to have our toolset options available at all time, let's move them to the top. To do that, simply click where those many lines of dots are on that toolbar and hold down your mouse key, then drag it around the screen. As you'll see, this allows us to move this panel and click it into place. Once you have it where you want it, simply let go. Beneath these options, you'll see there's a menu selection called Filters with the option to show hide or the ability to select certain things. These are useful in area building and will be discussed another time. These icons here allow us to do similar things, but again are also used in area creation, as are the buttons shown here. Next to these, we'll find our spell checker, which is especially useful because many times we will be editing large amounts of information and we'll need some way in order to make sure that we have not spelled anything incorrectly. In order to explain the other panel functions, let's try to create a new area. Go to File, New, select Area. This will open up a wizard in which you can create a new area. As a note, when putting down your area tag, make sure that if you are working as a part of a building team, that you are following the area naming conventions for the module build team that you are working for. Additionally, it is a good idea not to have any spaces or special characters in the area tags, as these are used by scripters. So, I've gone ahead and erased the area name we had before, and I will call my area AR for area _01. You can also change the area type to interior, tiles, or exterior, which use terrain and can be painted in the sense that you can sculpt it with hills, valleys, and things of that sort. Since we're starting basic, let's simply use interior area. Click Next. You can also select the size. Any will do for right now, so I'll simply select Tiny and then click Finish. As you'll notice, our view window now shows a grid. This is our new area, but the reason it's black is that we have not yet placed any tiles for a player to be able to walk on. So to do that, if you look down here to the lower right under Blueprints, you'll notice that this is a tab. Here at the bottom, you also have an option to select the Tiles tab. This is where we can find the tiles to use and place in this window. Next to this tab, you'll also see the Terrain option. Under the Terrain tab, you have options to paint terrain, to texture the terrain, to add grass, and to add water. For an interior area, only the water is usable. But, had we created an exterior area, we could use the terrain, texturing, and grass also to add more life to it. Since we're working with an interior area, go back to Tiles, expand any of the options here. You'll see that it lists different sorts of rooms. If you look at the graphic next to each room description, you'll see that it shows little icons. For example, any place where the box has no graphic on it is simply an open wall. There's nothing blocking the player on that side. Anywhere you see a little blue dot, that represents a column or some kind of pillar that will appear in that corner of the room. Thick blue lines represent solid walls, and red spots represent entries or doorways through which a player can pass. So for now, let's select any one of these. In my case, I will take 2 walls, 1 corner. You'll notice that I clicked on it once, and then when I drag my mouse over into this window, you'll see that it appears to be showing up on whichever tile I run my cursor over. However, we can't see very well. So while your cursor is hovered over the view window, simply scroll down with your mouse wheel, and this will allow you to pan out. There, now we can see better. You'll see that as I move my cursor around, the tile moves with it. This is because I have not yet placed it. To place a tile, simply hover your cursor over the tile you would like to place it in, then click once with your left mouse button. There! You'll notice as I drag my mouse away, there's now one stationary tile located in the space that I clicked. If we want to place a few more, we simply have to continue clicking, or we can select a different type of tile by returning to our Tiles menu here, scrolling down to select a different room, and then use that to click here. For now, I won't select another one as this is a useful tile. If I'd like to rotate the way my tile will paint down, I simply use the right mouse button by clicking once, and you'll see that it has rotated. Now that it is rotated, I will use the left mouse button to click on that square and paint it down. I'll do the same for all of these tiles. There, now I have a complete room. Another thing you may notice is that also in that room, there is a small red circle with an arrow in it. This represents the location where any player will start when they load into our module area. We can change this by simply coming up here, finding the icon that looks like a red circle with an arrow in it, and when we hover over it, it says Set Start Location. Now, when we click in this area, we can move that circle. But our room looks kind of empty, so we'd like to add some creatures to it, wouldn't we? To do this, simply return to this lower right-hand panel, which again has the Blueprints, Tiles, and Terrain tabs. If you click on Blueprints, you'll have access to all sorts of resources that you can use to put into your module itself. If you hover over each of these icons, it will tell you what sort of resources you are able to choose from. Items, creatures, doors, stores, and more. Since we'd like to put creatures in, let's keep the Creatures tab selected by clicking on it once. You'll notice down below we have the option to select from aberrations, animal companions, and other sorts. However, we can't quite scroll over completely because the window is slightly too small. To rearrange any of the windows on screen, you simply click on them as we did the file options here, right over the dots. Hold it down, and this allows us to drag our window. You'll see that it is represented by that grayed box there. Also, you'll notice that on screen there are now small little icons that have appeared in certain places that look like little scroll bar arrows. If you hover your mouse over that while still holding it down, it will gray out the new area where the window you are dragging will appear. So as you can see, if I were to let go of my mouse while it is located here, my Resources panel would shift so that it now takes up that entire upper space. Alternatively, if we hover it over the set of 4 arrows located over my current panel, this will cause the panel that I am dragging to take up part of the new area here. So let's go ahead and let go. As you can see, since our resource panel is no longer located here, this area has now been included with our view panel. But since we selected the lower arrow, our resources panel now occupies this lower space. Another way you can reorganize your windows is by using these pin buttons here. These allow you to pin these parts of your window to the sides of the toolset. The panel you'll probably use the most often will be your Properties panel, which is located here in the upper right. This allows you to change the settings for whatever object you currently have selected, whether that's an area, a creature, or something else. I choose to keep this panel open as I do edit it quite often, but the rest we can go ahead and pin to our tool set. So go ahead and click the pins, and remember that whatever order you pin them in is the order in which they will stack along the sides. So I will go ahead and pin the areas, the area contents, the resources, and on this side I will pin the blueprints. Now I'm left with my view panel here and my properties window, which is now expanded to the bottom. I can make it larger by hovering over this gray bar here, clicking and holding down the left mouse button and dragging it. Now it's larger. If I'd like to access any of the panels now located on the side, I simply need to hover over them, and this will cause them to pop out. As you can see, they change. However, they are still quite small. And for the sake of my area contents, which will be useful later, I'd like to make this larger, so simply hover over that tab, and when it pops open, pull your mouse over, and when it's hovered over the gray bar, click and hold down, and then you can drag this. Now it's larger. You'll notice my resources is located on the bottom because of where it was when I pinned it. If I'd like to undo a pin, I simply hover over it, click the pin button again, and this will locate it here. So now, if I'd like my resources menu to appear on the side rather than on the bottom, I'll simply click and hold this, drag it over to this arrow so that it occupies the side, and then pin it again. Now it's located on the side. Again, I can also adjust this. Easy! Returning to our first task, we did want to put some creatures in our area. To do that, hover over the Blueprints menu, and you may want to expand it out so that it is at least a little larger than what you had before. This will allow us to see better. In this case, I'd like to add some animals, so I'll expand the category and notice that there are 3 more categories for me to choose from. I can expand each of these to select from a few. For now, I'll select a couple of chickens. Now, if we zoom in the window by hovering our cursor over and scrolling the mouse wheel up, we can see here that now I have a chicken attached to my cursor. I can simply click in the area, however many times I would like, to place that many chickens. It's pretty easy. You'll notice the chicken still sticks with my cursor even after I've placed these objects. So to select a new object, I'll simply hover over the Blueprints menu, select a new creature, and then place it too. Fairly simple. Some things I'd like you to notice now are that if you come over here, hover over the Resources panel, you'll notice that our Areas selection has an option to expand the category. This was not so when we first started because we didn't have any areas. But if we expand this, you'll see that Area 1 is listed. We can click on that, and you'll notice that here in our Properties panel, we can now access the properties for that specific area. Area properties include things like the ability to set a sky ring, which is only useful for outdoor areas. You can also change the day and night light settings. You can change fog color and other special modifiers. Other things you may want to be aware of is that if you hover over the area contents, you'll notice this includes several icons similar to those viewable in the Blueprints menu. This is because when we click on these show what kinds and how many of each object type we currently have in the area we are viewing. If you'll notice when I click on Creatures, there's now a drop-down menu saying Animals. And that's of course because we have chickens and cows currently in our area. So we can expand that. You'll see that we have domestic creatures, and expand that again, and you'll see it has a copy of every single creature available in our area. If we select these, by clicking on it once, you'll see that it selects the applicable creature to which that instance is associated. So when I click on the first chicken, it selects the first chicken. Or I click on the first cow, it selects the first cow. I can also press the delete button, and you'll notice that the cow is deleted. This is useful for selecting specific items that you may not be able to find directly when working with very large areas, or to select items that may be located under objects and difficult to pick while using the view screen.